What do you mean about the fact that we are a focused, women-focused podcast and we totally missed the month?
I
We
know,
miss
right?
celebrating
I know.
ourselves.
And the importance of women.
You know what?
Teresa, what does that say about us?
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa. Let's get started.
All right, Teresa. Here we sit in this month, and March was Women's History Month. What do you think about that?
What do you mean about the fact that we are a focused, women-focused podcast and we totally missed the month? We miss celebrating
I know.
ourselves.
And the importance of women.
You know what?
Teresa, what does that say about us?
Oh my God. Well, it says that we're very busy women.
Well,
That's what it says about us.
that's what it says, but as
And,
usual,
yeah.
but as usual, because I always am the one that tries to pull us out, here I will do that yet again. It also says that we can't be limited to a month as women. We are
All
required
right, then. All right.
to just celebrate in a specific time. We're just too awesome for that. What do you think about that, co-host?
I think we rule the world, and the words of Beyonce. Girls, we rule the world.
That's right. That's right. And so here at Earrings Off, if we want to recognize women in this month, hey, that's what we do, because that's how we roll. Okay. So,
And I'm gonna quote another famous woman, Tabitha Brown,
all right,
because
go
it's
ahead.
our business.
Hey, I love it. Yeah, that's our business. And we might not, here at Earrings Off, we might be confused in other areas of our business and personal lives about what we run. But Teresa and I are clear at Earrings Off. We do run this. So we do what we want. Okay. So there you have it. All right. So
There you have it.
there you have it. So, okay. So, but Teresa, a little background. The president does declare every March Women's History Month. And every Women's History Month has a theme. So the theme for this year's Women's History Month was valiant women of the vote refusing to be silenced. So that was this year's
I did not
thing.
know that.
Yeah. See, Teresa, you
I
think
totally
I'm just
missed
coming?
that.
Yes. Well, I did too, but I actually pulled it up, because even though we're not limited to any month, we are all about the knowledge here at Earrings Off. So there you have it, folks. Don't just go celebrating stuff
Thank you for
and you
sharing.
don't know what it's about. All right. Women's History Month. But Teresa, there was something when I Googled this, all of these little facts popped up and stuff. But one that I thought about is that really we have come a long way, baby, because back in, women couldn't even get their own credit cards until 1974. That it was required.
What?
Yeah. We couldn't get, there
Oh,
were
my
so
goodness.
many rights and privileges that we were just barred from. Couldn't even get, so if you wanted a credit card, you couldn't get one in your own name unless you brought along a man to co-sign for you.
Girl.
Girl, I don't know if I'd even have
You
one to
right.
this day.
You're right. We've come a long way. That is crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the big one for me were the voting rights, you know.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea we were impacted in other ways as well. Or should I say we were kept from doing other things as it's
Yeah.
like
And
I
as
don't
an
know.
African,
I'm going to stay focused because I was about to go somewhere else. I'm going to stay focused. Stay focused. It's Women's Day. I
yeah.
was going to bring up something related to race, but no, not
But
today.
but
Go
but
ahead.
yeah,
We're talking about women.
but I was just thinking though, but when we talk about that though, that even when we talk about women getting more rights, we weren't in the initial group of women that those rights were extended to. We were always delayed even further after white women, you know? So that's been
Oh,
our
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's been our history as well. So here we sit in the year of Kamala Harris as the first woman of color vice president, and with Stacey Abrams being such a warrior in voting rights, not only in Georgia, but her actions and her voice have impacted the world, if you will, her bravery and her courage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good time to talk about women who not only who refuse to be silent, not only in reference to voting, but just in the way that they conduct themselves in their lives. So that's
What do you think about Nancy Pelosi?
well, she too has played
Yeah.
a pivotal role in women's rights, and certainly worked hard to move this country forward. I think it's very good for all of us as women to see women in roles where they're leading and where they're not cowering, where they
Mm-hmm.
refuse to be
Mm-hmm.
silenced. So yeah, and definitely
Mm-hmm.
the Speaker of the House is in that category. So yeah. But Teresa, we always talk here at Earrings Off about thinking outside the box. And when we have our retreats and our meetings, we talk about making sure that we see things differently, that we're open to different interpretations, bringing new information and new knowledge. So when I thought about Women's History Month, I didn't really want to, for me, I didn't want to focus on what's in the history books, you know, what we know.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly there are so many women that we applaud, we look to, who've allowed us to
Mm-hmm.
see ourselves in various roles and believe that we too can walk through those doors, and they've empowered us. So I
Yeah.
don't want to in any way dismiss that. But when I thought about this, I said, okay, but for my life, I want to think about women who refuse to be silent. And one woman that continues to stick out in my mind is, and you've heard me say this before, is Gabrielle Union, because
Mm-hmm.
the actor, because I read her book, We're Going to Need More Wine. And I tell you, in that book and in her life, she to me has embodied a woman who refused to be silenced. Because at 19, Gabrielle was raped. She was working in a Payless store, and someone came in to rob the store and violently raped her. And Teresa, for so long, all of us have either heard stories or know someone that's been raped or assaulted. We read the stories, we watch the news accounts, we hear about them on TV. And often in those instances, women are made to, they're twice victimized. They're assaulted,
Yeah.
raped, and then they are then put in the position of defending, what they said, what they did, where they were, all of that. And so then they have to defend themselves, and yet they're the victims. And I tell you, Gabrielle Union, she totally flipped the script on that. I mean, she did. She refused to allow her life to be dictated or determined by that event. She refused to acquiesce her power. She was very candid in her descriptions, very they were graphic, but also I think the way she responded to such a horrific event allowed other women to know, no, you don't have to defend anything. You're innocent. There are monsters amongst us who don't understand that no means no, and that's not your fault. You take no ownership of that. And I think because of that and the way she handled it, that Gabrielle was a catalyst for healing for women in that area. And so I tell you, when I think about women who refuse to be silenced, my mind goes to her, because I tell you, that just blows me away, because so many times women are made to feel ashamed. And we did our first episode on It Happened to Linda, where a woman shared about being.
I was waiting for a break. In your description, I was going to bring up Linda.
Yeah.
Right. And on a smaller scale, she did the same thing.
Yeah.
She refused to be silent.
Yeah. And so when we talk about refusing to be silent, not only in terms of the vote, but how we conduct ourselves, recognizing that this society for so long has seen us as less than, and has made us feel that, no, you can't do that. Go sit in the corner, go be quiet. And we push against that constantly. And Teresa, it's for the greater good that we do that. When we do that individually, when we refuse to be silent, even with you, Teresa, in your role in managing teams, and in my past roles doing that. Yeah. People they have an issue with women in power and in charge and running things.
Well, one of the women that I wanted to talk about today is Sheryl Sandberg. And
oh, wow.
the way that I came to know her, of course, now she's the COO at Facebook.
Right.
But the way I came to know her was her when she penned Lean In.
Oh, yeah.
I read her book.
Yeah. I read that.
Did you read that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in that book, she talks about that very thing about, just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you don't deserve a seat at the table. You absolutely deserve a seat at the table. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, if it was in her book or another that I read, it was a story that I read about there being an opportunity to come into a boardroom and all of the men sitting around the table, and she would take a seat along the wall. And it was someone who invited her. No, you come to the table, and from that point forward, she sat at the table. Now that might be anecdotal, or I read it in the book. I read that book years ago. I can't remember, but I know I've heard that story from somewhere, but I attributed it to her. And in addition, that whole imposter syndrome that comes along with being a leader. Sometimes we feel like, are we really smart enough to be here? And you wouldn't have gotten there otherwise, because jobs aren't routinely given to women in leadership. They aren't. They're just not. You have to earn them, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. And Teresa, co-host, I hope you haven't given Sheryl Sandberg my story that I shared with you about me entering a meeting, because I think I shared the story
Maybe it
with
was
you
you.
that folks, and see,
It
you can
could
have a
be.
co-host and she don't even want to, she
That's
don't want to give you your shine, but that's okay. Yeah.
Well, never, never, never would I try to steal your shine. That story is the theme. That story is the theme of Lean In. If you were to,
Yeah.
well, you've read it, but
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
others to read it, so it's all about deserving a seat at the table.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, 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 I
Yeah.
would not
Yeah.
do that.
Teresa's.
Lou, there is one other lady that maybe a couple other ladies that I'd like
Okay.
to just shout out today.
Okay.
Sometimes I find myself wondering why a certain business model is successful. And one such business model in business is Starbucks.
Right.
I just can't fathom why we flock there to spend $5,
I
$6,
know,
$7, and
right?
$8 even for a drink on a regular basis. And we
Well,
have
well,
got to have it. We
well,
just got to have it,
but
right?
but Teresa,
And
but just wait a minute, Teresa. You know what always blows my mind about that is that somebody sat around, saw something, maybe traveling from Europe or somewhere, I don't know, who just thought, you know what, Americans need this place to go and have coffee and relax and just, meet with friends. And sometimes I think to myself, Lou, why didn't you think of that? That blows my mind. Yeah.
okay, it's not about you today. Okay,
Okay.
relax.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. You know how I am. Go on.
Stay focused. So, it's mind blogging. And I know Starbucks it's a vibe. It's more than just a cup of coffee, right?
Right. Yeah,
But
it is.
what I've come to know is that they're being led by a Black woman. Did you know that?
Yeah. 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 I recently learned that. Yeah.
Rosalind. Yeah, I did too. Rosalind Brewer.
Yeah.
And she I came to know her during the whole social unrest thing because
Yeah.
she was instrumental in bringing in the policies that help with the racial bias training, right?
Right.
And so that's when I came to know about her. And now it's not so hard for me to pay that $5 to drink the drink. Just kidding. But anyway, but before she was the COO of Starbucks, she was the CEO of Sam's Club. So she's been
I didn't
she's
know
a
that.
yeah, and a couple of other. So shout out to Rosalind Brewer and a couple of other ladies that I find fascinating. Rihanna, who we've came to know her as a singer,
Right.
a personality in media, right?
Yeah,
For that,
but
but she started this beauty company called Fenty, and it is an amazing company that people absolutely love.
Yeah.
And along with that, she started a lingerie company and she's reinvented herself. And I've heard, recently on the radio, and her music is good,
Oh, absolutely.
and people are wanting her to put out another album. But I can imagine right now she's a business mogul. She's like holding it down.
I know, right?
Yeah. And, yeah, it's amazing how she's reinvented herself, or maybe that was always there, and maybe it was the music that gave her.
But the music gave her, a way for her to pursue this other venture, to have funding for that. But there is a message in that Teresa, that we talk about this often. We have to be open to different opportunities, to not limit ourselves, because you're doing well in one area, to think, okay, this is it for my life. This is what I'm going, because there may be other things out there that you're missing that can also fuel you and feed you. So yeah, and certainly it never hurts to have different streams of income. We know about that as well. Yeah.
And two other ladies that I look up to, Ava DuVernay. I
Yeah.
love her. And
Yeah.
I love her work.
Yeah.
And so far, everything that of hers that I've seen, it has meaning, and it's not just
Yeah.
because, you know.
I tell you,
And
and she just
then
exploded on the scene, but I'm sure she must have been working at
oh
this for
yeah.
years. But
And Shonda Rhimes, now she just provides me with a lot of guilty pleasure when it
well, we
comes
all
to
need that.
entertainment.
We all need it. We all need it.
Yes, Scandal. And
Yeah.
I recently watched I didn't watch it when it was I don't know if it's even a active series now, but How to Get Away with Murder. That
Okay. Yeah.
never appealed to me on
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
It never appealed to me, but I recently watched it on I think either Hulu or Netflix, I can't remember which. And that show is pretty good.
Oh, is it?
You know?
Okay.
It's
Okay.
yeah, it is pretty good. But those are some of the ladies that that I admire and enjoy seeing their work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff. Well, like I said, you know, when I thought about this, I looked at women who wouldn't be silenced. And I just thought about an example that I know personally. And everybody that knows me knows that, you know, my mom is my number one woman in the world that, you know, that made an impact that I most admire of everybody. But there is a lady who's in the number 2 spot, and she's always been there. And I don't see that ever changing. And I'm going to call her Mrs. C. And Mrs. C, when I was a young girl, she was in my church. And her husband had an affair. And from the affair, there were, he had children. And the lady with whom he had the affair, she died. And there were 2 young girls left, you know, that had no mom and no home. And the reason I admire her so, Mrs. C, was that, you know, I was a young girl, didn't understand a lot of what was going on because people were talking around me in hushed tones, but I could decipher what was going on, that there was a lot of confusion and concern what was going to happen to these girls. And Mrs. C, she took them. She took them into her home because that was their dad. And a lot of times people, they are silent by not doing the right thing, you know, but she refused to be silent. She became very active. She not only took them in, she was a true mom to them. I saw no difference between her other children and how she treated the girls. She loved them. And her example for me as a young girl growing up, and I saw that, and I thought, you know, you can sit in church and learn all the Bible verses you want to learn. But here, she showed what a Christian really does when pushed against the wall, when faced with difficulties that she neither created nor deserved. And I always prayed and hoped that there was some part of me that embodied Mrs. C's spirit and her character. Because later, when I became a child abuse appeals manager, I have seen more cases than most people of abuse and people not being kind to children. And I've seen people mistreat and judge children for the actions of their parents, the actions of adults in their lives, when children are innocent and they deserve none of that. And that's always been very jarring to me to see how we do children in this country when they're innocent and don't deserve it. And how we as adults, we fail them over and over again. And Mrs. C, she didn't do that. And she will always be my number 2 woman who refused to be silent, but she's always going to be, as long as I live and breathe, and like the old folks say, and have my right mind, she's going to always be my number 2 most admired woman in my entire life. So
Wow.
that's I like to go to people that I know. And I certainly, as I said, not to minimize the people that are in the public eye, because I can't even imagine what it takes to get there, especially if you're an African American and you've achieved a certain level of success. It's not easy. But there are many.
You better get ready.
But I know, right? But there are so many people who walk amongst us that they don't get picked up by the news. We don't hear about them, but that's an example I saw. And I'm telling you, if I just have in my character just a bit of what I saw from her as a young girl, I'm on solid ground. And I'm thankful for that.
I could say a lot there, but, I'm not going to go there because I hear what you're saying about her character, and I'm so thankful that she was really good to those girls, because you're right, they didn't deserve it. They didn't ask to be put in that situation, and it's very unfortunate that their mother died. But I certainly hope Mrs. C gave it to Mr. C.
I know.
He deserved it.
Yeah, I know. And that's yeah, I hear you. And that's certainly an appropriate response. But and I don't know what happened with them and all of that in their marriage or how difficult that was. But what I believe, that she loved those girls and they had a wonderful upbringing. Yeah. So, and I just wish as adults that we could get beyond some of our pettiness in relationships and see that children don't deserve that. And they're watching us. So, but that's what we have for you today, folks. We're late, but I hope you've enjoyed our discussion on Women's History Month, because Teresa and I know we're not limited to any month. We can talk about this anytime we want to. And as long as women keep blazing trails, that's just what we're going to do here at Earrings Off. So, folks, that's what Teresa and I are talking about today for Women's History Month. Just want to recognize the power of women and to encourage all of us to keep pushing forward, because there are others who still need the doors opened and the ceilings shattered. So that's it for us today. And that's all we have in our conversation today. Have a great day.